believe November 4th is the trade deadline. I think they have right up to right around 4 o'clock to do their business. And so when you have not only teams like the Browns, but also other bad teams around the league that are looking at the future of their franchise and good players that maybe they don't want to financially commit to down the road, you got to have conversations of, well, what can we do to help build our future out a little bit? And I think those are fair questions to ask. And so now here we are with the Browns at 2-6. We knew it was going to be an uphill climb this year. I think most of us did with what they had at quarterback, whether it was Flacco or the 2 rookies. You never really were going to be, I think, in the upper echelon of elite teams this year with that type of quarterback play. Would have been a shock if we were talking anything different. And so now the question of what do you do with some of their key players needs to come into focus. And one of those guys, as we all know, is the great Myles Garrett, who is coming off an incredible game against the New England Patriots where this dude racked up 5 sacks. He looked absolutely incredible. He is a one-of-one type of guy. And so let me ask you this, DT. If you're Andrew Berry, if you're the ownership group up there, are you having this conversation, or is it just utter nonsense in your mind to even bring this up right now?
Well, I think the conversation that you have to have is Myles Garrett for the remainder of his contract. What is the expectation for what he is going to look like? And if you expect Myles Garrett to age like fine wine, like it honestly looks like he is and is going to, and still be a factor by the end of that contract, so you weigh that, and then you think about where are we going to be over the course of the next 2, 3, 4 seasons? Are we going to be able to be competitive and capitalize on Myles Garrett's dominance during that time? If you think, no, it's going to take us longer to rebuild and become competitive, then I think you seriously have to consider trading him and recouping some assets. Otherwise, if you think and you can see yourself being competitive in that time frame, I think you have to keep Myles Garrett, right? Because he is a major reason why you are going to be relevant, not just culturally in the NFL, but as a football team, competitively on the field. How much worse is that defense without Myles Garrett? I know it's a very good defense, but Myles Garrett is a big, big reason for that. And without him, I think you would understand just how important he is.
He's
right?
A force multiplier. That's what, you have that guy, he can positively affect other areas, right, of your defense because of his game-wrecking abilities.
Of course, and if you were to trade him, whoever gets him, I think their defense becomes 2 times better, 3 times better, right? Like that's automatically one of the better defenses in the league because you have to worry about Myles Garrett. And it's not just worrying about Myles Garrett, it's actually what he does. Like you have to scheme for him, plan for him, and that opens up other people on a defense. Outside of that, he still dominates.
Right.
But that's where I'm at with it. Like I think you always have to consider things. If somebody comes in and blows you away with an offer, heck, I mean, you'd really have to weigh your options there. But for me, it's just a matter of determining where you are at in terms of do we think we are going to be competitive and be a factor in the NFL during Myles Garrett's contract. And if that's not the case, then you trade him.
I think if we were to look into our fake crystal ball right now and ask ourselves, what do we think the immediate future is going to look like, what you're talking about? I don't see right now the quarterback position in the next 2 years being figured out at a very high level and having the Browns make a leap into that elite company with Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, Cincinnati when they have Burley. Those teams. Like, I don't see that coming. And so I think that does crystallize and bring into focus, like, hey, if we get, to your point, if we get the Micah Parsons deal coming our way in the form of 2 first-round draft picks, a ready-made player, which they got in Kenny Clark from Green Bay, you got to have that conversation. I wouldn't trade Myles Garrett right now. I wouldn't do it. And I think if the team were going to do it, they would have done it this offseason where they had the dispute, the back and forth, and Myles throws out his statement publicly after Andrew Berry throws out his statement about the whole Canton to Cleveland or Cleveland to Canton stuff, whatever that was at the time. And another thing that's hovering over this whole deal is that Myles has a no-trade clause in the new deal that he just got. So he's got some veto power in all of this to say, hey, even if Andrew Berry says, look, man, we got a great deal for what we think is going to help us as a franchise, and we're sending you somewhere where you can probably win, he's going to say, you know what? Let me think about it. Let me think about it. And so I don't think they should do it. I really don't think they should do it. It's a team that's set up with their own draft capital right now that's pretty darn good. Like, you're looking at their draft pick that's probably going to be fairly high with the way that this season feels like it's headed. And you have an additional draft pick, first-round pick coming from Jacksonville with the trade that you did with Travis Hunter. And so I want you to hear from Bill Cowher, former Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. He was asked about this, and he was on Dan Patrick's show. And from a head coach's perspective, here's his thoughts on the possibility of a Myles Garrett trade and what that could do to a team.
He's a generational player, Dan. I don't think he'd trade generational players. And, that's a total start over. We've seen a lot of teams rebound and come back. This is a good defense. This is an offense that's still trying to find its way with a young quarterback. Again, I think you're looking at National Football League. They're still at a point with what they're still only 3 games out of first place. So, I think, again, the whole getting rid of people or trying to buy people. And I think if you're close, you go get someone. But I think if you're going to, take a player off your team, it's not a great message to send to the rest of the players on your team. Are you giving up on this season? And now expect them to go out there the second half of this season to build something and maybe take into the next year, because I think there's a lot to be said for that. So I don't think you get rid of generational players.
Here's where my thought would change on the possibility of trading him, DT, is if this were his last year, contract-wise. Like, if you're staring down the barrel of, hey, this guy wants to hit free agency, he's just done with Cleveland, whatever it may be, in that type of scenario, then you absolutely try to trade this guy and get something in return. Like, I don't understand teams across sports that let these type of players just walk for comp picks. Like, that never makes sense to me, but that's not what Cleveland has to worry about right now. What they have to worry about is figuring out the most important position, because we have seen, whether it's guys in their first years and C.J. Stroud and Jay Daniels, or guys like in their second year, like we're watching currently with Drake May right now, that if that pops, you're ready to go, especially if you have a defense the way that Cleveland has a defense that's tough week in and week out.
There is something to be said, too, because, I am in the camp that I think the Browns can get competent by the end of that contract. Like, I am not trading Myles Garrett. And while I just said you need to weigh your options there, I am of the belief that the Browns can get to the point that they can be competitive during Myles Garrett's contract here before it expires. And something has to be said, because think about that division. You have Lamar Jackson, you have Joe Burrow. Those guys have dealt with injury this year. Both of their teams have been bad, frankly, because of that.
Yeah.
The Ravens, maybe, they've struggled with Lamar, but obviously without him. You need to have a good defense, and particularly a dominant pass rusher, if you want to be competitive in the division going forward. So where are you at as the Cleveland Browns if you trade Myles Garrett and say you get the quarterback right, or you get competent quarterback play that gives you an average to, good offense? In that division, you're going to need a very good defense, which is what they've got right now. So I'm kind of the belief you keep the guy, you keep the defense as dominant as possible, and then you try to figure out that quarterback position to get competent play that keeps you in games.
I also don't know if they would get the Micah Parsons return because of age and the difference in age. And I think Green Bay was willing to let go of probably that additional first-round pick, because Micah's in that 25 to 27 age range. Myles is, we're talking 30, 31. So some of those years that gets a little murky as far as the projection of dominance throughout his career. And so I don't think the return would be probably what Browns fans would love, just based off of that. And look, we're having a lot of conversations about the quarterback position, which is it's huge, as we all know. They've done a good job, I think, with this rookie class as well.
Yes.
Right, like outside of the quarterback position. Like, we're talking Carson Schlesinger leading the team in tackles. Quinshawn's been a dude. Fannon's had his games to where he's really popped off as well. So I think there's 3 guys. Mason Grant, 4 guys, thank you, that you're looking at and saying, as a Browns fan, like, those guys we're good with.
Yes.
Like, what they're going to be. And so they just got to get QB1 figured out. They do that. Then I think, to your point, they're probably not as far off as their record is telling us they are right now.
Well, you also, and I know Browns fans have talked about this a lot too. weapons, right?
Yeah.
Can you get another receiver? I like what they've done at tight end. Quinshawn looks like a real piece. Can you add some more explosive weapons? That's going to help out a quarterback that, even if your quarterback is more of a game manager, if you have those explosive weapons, it's going to make the offense a lot better.
100%. We will continue our conversation about the Browns with the great Tyvis Powell next. We're Rothman and Ice right here on The Fan.
A lot of hosts have been